I mean, it's going to be really obvious. I'm going to go with AI because if I don't mention AI as a trend, like it would be just weird in the world that we're in today. But I think everybody understands that AI is a trend. But kind of going a bit further than just like saying the bleeding obvious. I think there is this interesting conversation of how can we really use generative AI, because there is this technology, but it is very, very far from perfect. So for example, chat, I don't know if you've ever done this, but if you want to laugh, go on Chat GPT and ask it who you are. Like literally, I went on Chat GPT and I asked it, who is Sophia Matveeva? And it gave me this bio of myself, which is like 50% nonsense. It was like 50% right, but 50% it just made up. The bio was great. Like I was very impressed by the fake me, but it was definitely the fake me. And this is called hallucination. And so generative AI, it often hallucinates, and computer scientists haven't yet figured this problem out. But yeah, generative AI is also really, really useful. So given the fact that it can be super useful, but it can also make things up, how can we generally put this thing to use? And so that discussion, that trend, that's something I'm really, really interested in. Like, how do we actually use this thing, which is effective but very far from perfect? And another thing that I'm interested in is like the legal implications of this. So on Sunday, I'm going to the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity, which is basically the Oscars of the advertising industry. And what marketing agencies, what brands, like what they're worried about is like, okay, with generative AI, it all comes from like data from somewhere. But imagine if somebody used Taylor Swift's music as part of their sample to make generative AI. Would Taylor Swift be happy that like her music was essentially sampled to go into an AI generated track? No, she would be dreadfully unhappy and she would sue the hell out of you. And I would be totally with her because like you shouldn't do that. She's the artist, she came up with something amazing, it's hers, it shouldn't be used without permission and payment. And so this is another trend that I'm really interested in is, okay, how do we update the legal system, especially rights and copyright? And because essentially for generative AI, you need data, but that data usually belongs to somebody. So I'm really curious about what's going to happen there. I'm excited about it, but also I do think that there are going to be a lot of really, really interesting lawsuits. And okay. Also, another trend that I'm seeing in the tech industry, which is a little bit less obvious, is the emphasis on design and the emphasis on user experience design. So there are now more and more CEOs of tech companies that actually were not coders first, but they were designers first. So look at Airbnb. Brian Chesky was a designer. He went to the Stanford School of Design. Evan Spiegel went to the Stanford School of Design. I forgot where Brian Chesky went, but he was a designer. And there are a few other tech CEOs that were designers first. And if you actually look at the role of a designer in a lot of tech companies, that role is now really, really elevated. And some companies even have the chief design officer literally sitting in the C-suite. And this is a fairly new thing. And I think it's because in some cases, the technology, that's not where their competition is. That's not where the differentiator is. The differentiator is in making something easy and delightful to use, because that's what drives people to use it. And this is where design in technology is becoming ever more important. And so I always say to people like, okay, if you're not interested in becoming a coder, but user experience design really thrills you, then actually you could have a role, you could kind of get to the C-suite through that, which is not something that I would have said like even 5 years ago. And finally, okay, the next bit that I'm going to say, you might think is really boring, but I think it's very exciting. So this whole thing of like traditional corporates going through digital transformation, That has been happening for a really long time. And, according to McKinsey, 70% of digital transformations fail to meet their goals. Okay, but companies are still going through digital transformation. Like, if you're a large company and you don't have a digital transformation program, it basically means you're going out of business. Like, that's it. And so I am excited about essentially a lot of the low-hanging fruit that is still yet to come. Because I think, right at the beginning, we talked about AI and generative AI, and that's the cutting edge of tech. The cutting edge of tech is really, really important. But there's like so much basic stuff that just hasn't been done. Like, to the point, I don't know if any of you have ever used the British Airways app, but I unfortunately had to use it to take my flight from London to France on Monday. And it was it was horrendous. I don't know who made it, but it was so bad. And I remember thinking, like, you don't need cutting edge tech innovation. You just need this stuff to work. And so I think, and British Airways is a massive company. And so I think I'm actually quite excited about the digital transformation and what's to come in these low-hanging fruit, which have not yet been picked.